tonight's Monaco Women Network. Bonsoir tout le monde. Donc, je pense que vous savez tous, mais l'événement ce soir sera en anglais. First of all, thank you to Victoria Stevenson and the Columbus Hotel for hosting us tonight. We're very, very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to be able to present you Victoria and her story and how she got here to be the only woman in Monaco to lead a hotel. So let's get to it.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody.
Thank you.
So again, you're the only woman in Monaco to lead a hotel. So can you tell us a little bit how you got here and what moments marked your road to here?
Well, I had the privilege of growing up in Monaco, so I moved here when I was very young, and I left at the age of 18 to study hospitality management in Switzerland. And coming out of there, like I think any young person, the idea was to travel the world. I didn't make it around the world, but I made it to a few places, and I started my career in London at the Savoy Hotel before that property closed for renovations, and moved on to Paris from there. Fairly unlucky, also closed for renovations. And that's when I started moving a bit more. So I moved to China for a couple of months to work during the Olympics in 2008. Did a couple of months then and moved back to Europe and back and forth between sort of the south of France and London until my personal life brought me back to the south of France in 2012. At which time I moved to the Negresco Hotel in Nice, which was an amazing property. And I decided to leave the Negresco when I was pregnant with my first child because I knew I couldn't manage my job and wanting to be a mother at 100%. So the choice was to be a mother for a couple of months. So I took 9 months off work, and when I decided to go back to work, I wanted to be able to have a bit more balance in my life. I always worked in front of house in hotels, and when you do that, your day starts when it starts, which is usually 7:30, 8 o'clock, but you never know when it's going to finish because we work in an industry where ups and downs happen all day, groups come in, problems happen unfortunately, so I didn't want to have that situation at that time in my life, so I decided to go into sales, and I wanted the opportunity to be able to also travel. Because as much as I love Monaco, you need to be able to get out of it sometimes to see what's going on elsewhere in the world. And that's when I joined the Columbus Monte-Carlo as a sales manager, where I had to go and prospect customers within Europe to promote the property, but quickly realized that wasn't my cup of tea. I wasn't very good behind a computer. I needed to be on the floor dealing with problems. That's what makes me buzz. And I was very fortunate to be offered the position of rooms division manager in this hotel at the time, which was when we were about to start a full renovation of the hotel. So we did 18 months renovation of the property where the hotel stayed open. I think that's a life changer in anybody's world in the hospitality industry, because managing a hotel open with renovations and customers in the middle is always, probably wouldn't say fun at the time, but we laugh about it now. And when the hotel was fully renovated, so I was in charge of obviously everything to do with rooms, so picking out all the bedding, which was a lot of fun to test all the possible beddings we could bring in, but I was also in charge of ensuring that we got the rooms back on time for any events that we were going to have, which never happens. If people have undergone renovations in their personal life or in business, they never seem to respect the deadlines that they promise you. And then when that was fully completed, the person who was in my role before decided to move on, and I got the privilege of moving into the general manager role of this property. So the rebranding of the hotel, relaunching the property with a complete new marketing positioning and what we wanted to be, how we were going to promote the hotel, which was a lifestyle property around the Riviera. And then sort of kept on going. There's been a lot of ups and downs. We all went through COVID, so COVID was a fun one. And following COVID, our property was actually sold to our current owners. So I had the chance to be very much involved in the sale of the property, dealing with the ins and outs, the outs being you're the only one who's aware of it, so you need to keep all of this confidential from the teams, and you don't really know what's going on or who the future owners will be. And the year after the property was sold, we branded into a Hilton property, which is what we are today. So the Columbus Monte-Carlo, a Curio by Hilton collection. Still quite a mouthful. And that was a new adventure because the hotel had been an independent property since it opened at the time of Abella. And a lot of our teams have been here a very long time actually. We have people who've been here 25, 30 years, and not many people like change in their life. So having to get everybody go through that change motivates to go through the change, manage the worries of everybody, because everybody was obviously concerned, but it was the unknown for everybody, including myself. So it was a challenge. It was a challenge because it was a crash course. We did something in 3 months, which normally takes 18 months. We were lucky that a lot of our IT didn't change, but some of it did, and that was probably the most challenging for the teams of getting their head around all of that. So that's why I ended up here.
So exactly, going into the challenges, you've spoken a little bit about the hotel transformation, which we'll go back to later. What challenges did you face throughout your experience that led you here today as a woman in order to get to this leading role that you have today?
It's quite unfortunate to say, but I think the main one is wanting to be a general manager or growing in our industry and wanting to be a mother on the side. I was questioned with, am I going to have more children? How am I going to balance my life of being a general manager? I think it does slow us down because it's a job that if you want to be hands-on with your children, you can't be at two places at once. It's a reality.
You
so
almost have to pick between.
You do, and I think
made you feel like that.
Yes, but I also made that choice for myself, and I was very conscious when I made those decisions, and it's what I wanted. You possibly could do both, but how much would you be involved in both sides? And I think a lot of women have said it. You can't be 100% in one place. You have to divide your time, so it's how much time you want to give. And at that time, I wanted to give 100% to being a mother. But as other challenges, I think our main challenge today is probably people, is generational, is how to manage an old generation with a younger generation coming up with which has different work values, different life values to what we possibly had or what we grew up in, and getting the teams to work together. It's probably our biggest challenge today, of having everybody to understand each other, and turnover mostly, because I think this younger generation coming in doesn't maybe tick the way we do. If they're not happy, if they don't like it, they'll move on, and very quickly, and it could change complete industry and what they initially decide to go into, and they'll try something completely different. And that throws you, because I think when you've hired someone, you're investing in them, you're training them, and it therefore encourages your managers who are feeling like that they're investing a lot in the new people and they're losing them. So they question themselves, they don't feel it's necessary to keep on doing it because people are just going to move on very quickly anyway. That's probably our main challenge today, but you forget about challenges as you move on, really.
And because they get harder, maybe.
No, because I think like everything, we try to forget about the bad, shall we say, or we laugh about it now so they don't feel very bad. I mean, we got the hotel back at 4 o'clock in the morning, the day after Grand Prix. I think we weren't laughing about it on the day, and that was a challenge. But today, when I look back and I look back at the time we spent sitting in the lobby, sort of laughing about it after, saying, "Wow, we've done it." There are moments which help us grow and turn us into people we are today.
Yes, and I can attest to that, having owned a small but still restaurant in the United States for 5 years, and the people, managing people is probably the hardest part to do in any type of hospitality environment. So yes, but so your management style though is known as more nurturing and people-centered. So can you tell us a little bit more about your philosophy and how you intend to lead your team every day?
I was given as if I was a child is treat people how you want to be treated, and it's something I teach my children, but it's also something I believe in in this property. I was very lucky to arrive in a hotel where everybody got along very well. We're not a big team, about 85 along the year. We got to about 100 over the season. But it was something that was very important, and there's also the lead by example, which I grew up with as values, and I still believe in them today. But I do strongly believe, and I see it with, as I said, the young generation, is that they need to feel comfortable, they need to feel valued, they need to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. But having a work-life balance is key for them, and we spend minimum 8 hours a day here. We interact a lot with one another, and if we're not okay on a personal life, we always say leave your baggage outside, and when you go into your work, you have to forget about it. But that's not life, unfortunately. You know, when it hits you hard, it hits you hard, and to have people understand you, to have people support you in going through certain things is important. And I think it's important for our team, who therefore have to reflect what they're feeling towards our customers, for them to have a pleasant stay. If they're feeling miserable, they're going to give miserable service. It's reality. So we work with lots of associations to support our teams on topics which impact us on the outside. The first one we started working with was She Can, He Can, with Vivek in Monaco, which is about menstruation. And the idea initially was to support women and our guests when they stay with us, but we pushed it even further in the sense that these topics were taboo in my generation. We didn't talk about it. My parents didn't talk much about it. To me, it was sort of like, they deal with it. But we had a lot less divorce also when I was younger, and today we have men who have to bring up children, young girls, who end up in a situation and they don't know how to deal with it. So it's awkward for them towards their children, and I think it's important for them to be able to talk about these topics with their daughters and make them feel comfortable and say it's part of life, but give them the tools to do it, because it's not comfortable for anybody. I don't think it's comfortable for a mother to a daughter, but it's even less comfortable for a father to a daughter. And we work on such topics. We've done menopause with Laura, who is a specialist in menopause in the UK and has just moved here, but on the impact that has, and that's even further than just a mother-daughter, father-daughter situation. It's a couple situation on, you know, how a husband can support a woman who has actually no idea what she's going through. So it hits a couple, and statistics show that actually 70% of couples divorce because of menopause, which we don't realize. But it also impacts us in the workforce. The impact it has on women that they're going through is having our male managers understand how they can support women during that time. And it's not we're getting forgetful or we're losing our minds. We're going through something, and it's having the right words or feeling like we're observing it. We may not go and talk about it, but we know it's there and we're supporting them. And we've done it also through our uniforms. We work with a local supplier, Nolly Jew, who does all of our uniforms, and actually made out of recycled fishing nets, which was something that was important to us. But they all have elastic bands, so that for women who's possibly going through menopause and doesn't feel comfortable saying, oh, I've gained a few kilos, I need to change my uniform, but I have to go and ask, and I'm going to get in trouble because it means reordering a new uniform. Well, they've got that extra bit of flexibility on their uniform where they don't have to talk about it. So it's lots of topics like that. We've done addiction, big one I think even for us parents, is how do we deal with addiction on our children. So we've had an association with Monaco come and talk to our teams, and we've had people go out after and speak to them. We don't know about it, we don't know who, but they'll say 4 or 5 people have come to see us to talk about it. Stopping smoking. So all those topics which have an impact on life about who we are and what we do bring in to our work every day, it's how can we support them in that sense, and not just with trainings which suit us to make the hotel work.
Yes, exactly, and it's really beautiful to know that there are managers who are taking their leading roles in that perspective, and it's not just about hitting numbers and, you know, having a certain number of sales per month, but it's also about making sure the team is happy in order to reach those goals, which are important. But
I think if you have those core values, you'll hit the numbers, because the teams will follow you and support you in what they need to be doing, because they feel valued.
Yes, exactly. So going back to the hotel transformation a little bit, you mentioned that you had to renovate multiple rooms, but you stayed open, that you switched ownership as well. What other new plans are there for the future, or anything exciting that you can share that you're excited about?
I'll be excited when it's finished. I'm not excited to go through it again. We're currently looking at, so when we did our renovations in 2017-18, we did the bedrooms, but we didn't touch the bathrooms, which are vintage. So it's quite cool. We have vintage bathrooms, which are probably seeked in some places today, but we're looking at renovating all of our bathrooms, which is probably more painful than the bedrooms because you're going to start touching tiling and it becomes very, very noisy. But that's going to be over 2, possibly 3 years because we can only do it in the winter season, just when we have a low occupancy. We're looking at redeveloping food and beverage offering for our clients, but that's at the early stages, shall we say. But the first sort of bathroom should start in February this year, and happen for the next 2 years. So something good when it will be finished, as I said. It will be painful throughout because it's an old building. So when you touch the 9th floor, you hear it on the ground floor.
Yes, I can imagine. Not very pleasant for 2 years. And another question: how do you see? What does luxury hospitality mean to you today in 2025? How do you define luxury hospitality?
I think probably not much differently to what it was when I started 20 years ago, which is taking care of our customers and the attention we give them and what we hear and learn from them, and when we do hear and learn something from them is how we can twist it to turn their experience around. I think luxury today in our world is time. We all lack time, and to be able to take the time, and we're just constantly running after time. So it's possibly helping our clients really let go and enjoy the time that they have with us and not be behind a telephone constantly, and supporting them with the right recommendations. But I don't think there's a big difference to what it was when I started 20 years ago, which is all about what we can bring them with the knowledge we have to make their stay exceptional.
And finally, one last question from me, and then you can all ask your questions as well. What advice would you give to young women who aspire to have a leadership role in hospitality or in any industry, really? We have a few students here tonight with us from the University of the IUM, so anything you would like to advise them?
Probably say, firstly, believe in yourself, I think is the key element, because if you don't, people won't for you. Women will, actually, I'll take that back. I feel very supported by a lot of women in Monaco, and I feel very lucky for that. I think times have changed, and all these topics that we do talk about are sort of sinking in a lot of people's minds, so there is a big change in that. But I think the key element is believe in yourself and have the right support team around you.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No.
That I haven't asked you?
No, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
As women aren't very good at talking about what they're good at, what is your most proudest achievement? Toot your own horn. Good question.
I would probably say the balance I've found between my job and my children. And the time I've managed to, and it's taken time, to give them possibly over my job, which I probably wasn't very good at 7 years ago.
That's no small feat. It's a big achievement.
Yeah, I think it's the most difficult one, because I think we do have le syndrome de l'imposteur, as we say in French, dwelling on us often as women, and this constant need to prove that we're just as good as men, and we need to do more, and it's finding that balance. But what I have actually learned a lot is in the last 7 years is that men doubt as much as we do. Actually, they just don't talk about it, and we do talk about it. I think that's the main thing.
Yes, that's true.
Any other questions? Yes?
As you've been working in different places world? Would you say something's different or special with the hospitality in Monaco compared to other places in the world?
I think the biggest difference is, and I left the UK a long time ago, so I can only relate to the experience I had when I was in the UK, but I think the main difference is the way you can or can't grow. The Anglo-Saxon work method is you're good at your job, you can be any age, and you will grow within the business or within the industry. In France and still in Monaco, you can sit in a job for many years before you're given an opportunity, or you'll grow because you've been here many years, not because of your talent or what you're producing. I think that was one of the key things I noticed, but I think also the work ethic I met. I was talking through someone recently, and it marked me. I still talk about it today. But when I moved to Paris, in my first week, one person said to me, "Victoria, we'll work colleagues, we'll never be friends." That starts your week really well when you start a job. And somebody said to me, "It's not in my job description. I'm not going to do that." And coming from the UK, where everybody was doing everything, and it was sort of like hands-on, and we just get it done, and we work through it. It's like, wow, okay, this is a change. So how do you deal with that and this different mindset completely to what I started my career in, which still exists today, and less so in Monaco, clearly. But I found again in the Negresco, when I was at the Negresco, of that sort of like. It's not in my job description, a very key element in how you get work done. And we work very differently here, and I'm very grateful to be surrounded by amazing managers who have the same work ethic. We're a team, and we go through difficult times, and sometimes one department is suffering, people show up sick, it has to be transparent for our guests. So it's what we call crunch time. It's how do we support that team? It could be a day, it could be a week, to get through that difficult time, so it's not felt by our customers. And you actually find that we have a lot more fun during that time, because you're finding yourself in funny situations. I just like this, I drove our shuttle on time to the train station this morning, and they looked at me like, "Are you really going to drive us to the train station in that skirt?" Yes, and I had an amazing time with them, and we had a lovely conversation. And those things do happen. As I said, we are a small company. And people don't show up, people do get sick, people have accidents, and it's how do we support one another during those times, and we find that we actually excel in that. And when we look at our customer comments, it's the team is fantastic, but I think the team is fantastic because we do support one another during those times, and that is just an ethos we have in this hotel.
In your position, how do you deal with the overflow of information to get always again into your balance with your job and then with your family, and also you need time for yourself?
So the time for myself I still have to work on. I'm not quite there. The work has time, the children have time, I don't have much time. Probably when my children are in bed, and I sort of then start compartimenter. Sorry, my English goes sometimes. Yes. To sort of prepare for the next day. Or I take time to go and talk to someone, and it sort of cuts off everything that's going in my brain, and then go back to it. But I still work to be done on that side. Yes.
I had a question on just globally in the luxury hotel business, the whole thought leadership mission, is that still mostly men, or are you seeing an equality there in terms of like who's paving the path of what the future of? Because I feel like even though women are in leadership positions, they're still not in the sitting on the board level or at the thought leadership where they're defining what the future looks like.
It's not the case in our industry, clearly. There are more women in leadership roles, that's for sure, but as I said, it just does take more time if you want to have both sides of life, which is having a family and being a leader. or unless, as I said, you've got very good support at home and you can invest yourself in your work a lot more than possibly the balance you may want to have at home. There was a wave in the hospitality industry where it was sort of like a trend to just name women GM, just to say we've got women as GM, which is wrong, because it's not right for anybody. It's not right for the person who you're going to put in the role, because if they're not the right person, it will be difficult, because it is a difficult job. But it's not right in the message we want to be sending, because I firmly believe that you get a job because you deserve it, because you've got the capacity to do it, and not just because you're a man or a woman. It works both ways. But I think it's still going to take a bit more time for more women to be in leadership roles, clearly.
I have another question. Do you see food waste as being a problem at the hotel, since you also have a restaurant? And how do you deal with that problem?
It's definitely a problem, but like a lot of waste in hotels, we have a lot of waste in general. It's actually a topic I was discussing this morning with the SMA of Monaco, of what also they're putting in place. So we wanted to work with composting for many years now, but it's just coming now into Monaco in a way that it can be managed. It's not an easy one. We obviously work with our teams a lot, because food waste is therefore food cost also, which is an important element. The most waste we probably have is over breakfast. What we did is actually reduce the size of the plates, so people go back more frequently rather than fill a plate and then just bin it when they've had enough. And then obviously you've got the produces that you don't use because not enough orders or wrong choice of menu, which can happen also. We don't work with associations and then handing back the food, especially on breakfast, because there's a whole hygiene, people touch, don't touch, things like that. But we are going to work with the SMA in all of our organic produces and how we can recycle those. And then on the lunch and dinners, our chef's very good, so people finish their plates.
That's a good point. Does anybody else have any questions? In French also, if you feel more comfortable in French.
What's easier, to lead men or women?
Women. Men don't like being led by women. And it's very, very true. We often, there's a whole time where, when we were, as women, we'd get upset or we were moody and people like, they've got their period, that's what's going on in their world. Sometimes when I have moody men, I'm sort of like, well, they're going through something that we're clearly not going through because it's worse than us. But no, I think the difficulties for some people is being led by women, and I can see how people position themselves. If a man says it to them or if I say it to them, it's a very different posture. And that's where credibility comes into role. It's what you know, your knowledge, your experience, and it does take more time for us to prove ourselves for them to believe what you're going to say versus what possibly a man will say the same thing, maybe differently, but the outcome will be the same. So I do prefer working with women.
It's an experience.
Definitely.
15 years with Bex. For your holiday, you prefer hotel or rent house?
It depends if I'm traveling with or without my children. With my children, a house, just because it gives everybody freedom of, when you're doing lots of things, everybody lives in their own corner. When I travel by myself or with family or my partner, a hotel, because I love discovering other properties. I'm very curious into what others do and offer. We do steal ideas because we don't have the best ideas all the time, and people have very good ideas. But there's also, the different types of hotels, and there are beautiful things which are done today, and I'm very, very curious in that sense, so I like both.
What's an idea that you've stolen from somewhere else?
Oh,
A lot. What's an idea stolen from somewhere else? I'm going to look at my director of sales and marketing who's in the back. Maybe she'll think of one. Put you on the spot. Possibly not from a hotel, but from Hilton as a brand. When we went to their headquarters, they had lots of positive messages hanging around their offices, and I really thoroughly enjoyed what the messages were. And we've done that, and we've put it in elevators, in the bathrooms actually, just to remind people their importance and their impact that they can have. And also, still, when you're having a bad day, just sometimes that small message can change how you're feeling throughout the day. On a guest aspect, what have we maybe stolen from another property? Can't think of one right now. We try and be.
Actually, it's often the opposite.
We try to be a bit avant-gardiste in what we do. The property being outside of the Café d'Or, being the only hotel in Monaco in Fontvieille, we sometimes get forgotten about because people don't think of Fontvieille automatically. So it's how we can.
How do you promote it for the residents?
Well, there's the residents, but also how we promote it outside. We're now obviously now Hilton, so we have a lot more visibility as a brand. But at the time, it was how can we stand out next to an SBM or Fairmont Accor as a brand, and our core value was therefore to become known as the hidden gem of Monaco. When you come, you are surprised because you discover Monaco in a completely different way than what you expect of Monaco. And it really is the feedback we get from our guests is we weren't expecting that this exists in Monaco. It's not all about the bling bling of the Place du Casino, but we also want to our guests to leave it feeling like they felt like they've lived the authentic Monaco, and that is on the recommendations of either the restaurants. We're very fond enthusiasts of Les Perles de Monaco because it's something you don't expect in Monaco. But it's also in the partners we decide to work with. So in our turn down amenities, we work with La Chocolaterie de Monaco. So the client goes back with something authentic that belongs to Monaco, that talks about Monaco. So it's all the little secrets that you may not think that you're going to discover throughout your stay in Monaco, because you're going to go to the casino, you're going to go to the palace. But these are little areas that we know about, but it's how to make them live the authentic Monaco. And that is something that we work towards and we strive towards, and that's how we also choose our partners, and only local partners. The first we've been right now is Valbonne, as I said, with our uniforms, but we have a lot of local Monegasque partners that we like working with and promoting them also.
And now, how many rooms and guests you can have when you're full?
We have 181 rooms. We have 9 residences. We also have residential apartments where people can live all year round, and the bar and the restaurant. So full capacity, we could go up to 400 guests.
400.
Yeah.
All right, well, if we don't have any more questions, I would like to thank you, Victoria, and
Thank you, Valentina.
the team and the hotel for hosting us here tonight once again. And thank you all for being here tonight. I know that we are in Monaco, but my husband is American and I've lived in the US for 12 years, and today's Thanksgiving, so I wanted to make
Happy
a special
Thanksgiving.
mention of that, and really thank you for taking your time to be here with us tonight. If it's your first time with the Monaco Women Network, welcome. And our mission is to highlight the work of professional women in Monaco and beyond. So we do these networking events monthly, or almost monthly, and then we have our flagship events once a year, the Monte-Carlo Woman of the Year Award and the Monaco Women Forum in March. And I want to especially thank my mom, who is here tonight, for giving me the opportunity to develop these events with her. And now I'll leave you to some networking and a cocktail offered by Victoria and the Columbus. Thank you.
Thank you very much.